Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. We should just call it WTF. All right. First, we have the worst mom ever. And I mean it. A man was arrested for asking young girls to change his diaper. The dad in the toddler's hot car death dies by suicide ahead of his sentencing. We've got you a twist on that backyard case in Texas. Well, it turns out they just didn't like her. A man sentenced to over 20 years for stabbing his wife and killing her dog following release on bond. I guess that protection order wasn't worth very much. Donna Adelson formally filed her notice of intent to appeal. A woman finds out what the penalty is for playing doctor. We got a little more news that we just couldn't get to. Legal history, quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Wait till you hear what he did. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do. Leave me a comment down below. Hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Like I said, we have an absolutely kind of crazy show today. What are people thinking? But before we get to that, let me remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up for that background subscription service today. You're going to find out everything you want to know about somebody and maybe some things you don't want to know about somebody, but maybe it'll give you peace of mind and put your head at rest and your heart maybe as well. You're going to get a report prepared. You're going to find out email addresses, social media presence, phone numbers. You know, you may, well, what is that? Person gave me their social media presence. They gave me the email address that they use. Oh, really? Do they have a bunch of other ones for all the other social media they don't want to tell you about, like all their dating sites? Yeah, probably. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to find out what is there. You're going to be happy that you did it. Go there. Also, check out the link below for merch. Appreciate you buying it. We really do. These going fast. Everybody's getting them. All the cool kids are getting them. You should get one as well. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for Thursday, November 6th, 2025. And we've had some moms, they've been in the running for Parents of the Year, have completely abused their children, possibly even killed them. But we have one today who's probably one of the worst moms ever, because I'm not sure her daughter will ever forgive her. So in a little bit of a plot twist, straight out of a twisted fairy tale, meet Robin Polston. She is a 43-year-old hairstylist who apparently decided that chaperoning her daughter's junior high dance was the perfect opportunity to upgrade from mom duties to something far more scandalous. Well, arrested on November 3rd by the Washington Police Department in Illinois, she's now facing charges that could redefine bad parenting for generations. Ms. Polston stands accused of engaging in a relationship with, wait for it, her 14-year-old daughter's dance date, culminating in the birth of a child in January. I know you can't make this up. I actually did this case once. I've had a couple of these over the years. Unbelievable. Anyway, police have leveled 2 counts of criminal sexual assault against a victim aged 13 to 17, along with 2 counts of possession of child pornography. And if the gavel falls unfavorably, each charge carries a potential sentence of up to 15 years behind bars. Now, the investigation ignited after a tip about the unconventional liaison post-delivery. Detectives secured the newborn's birth certificate on February 13th, noting the infant shared the exact middle and last name with the alleged young father. When pressed on paternity, Ms. Polston spun a tale of 20-something named Brian, who conveniently vanished after the birth, a story that unraveled under just a little bit of scrutiny. DNA testing from Ms. Polston, the teenager, and the baby sealed the connection, confirming the improbable parentage. The saga traces back to May of 2023, when Ms. Polston volunteered as a chaperone at the school's event where her daughter and the boy first connected. Shortly thereafter, the teenager relocated, only to return for fleeting visits in April and June of 2024. The April stint aligning suspiciously with the pregnancy timeline, roughly 40 weeks prior to the birth. By then, the boy had resettled permanently in Washington, ostensibly with a friend's family. A search warrant on Google accounts linked to his phone unearthed explicit images and videos involving Miss Polston and the minor. Prosecutors pinpointed Polston as the photographer, with the Tazewell County Assistant State's Attorney Cassandra Mulliken affirming the evidence. To cloak their communications, the pair allegedly used burner phones and pseudonyms in their contacts list. They'll never figure that out. Anyway, Miss Polston is further accused of urging the teenager to fabricate a cover story, citing her unreliability in adhering to judicial directives, particularly avoiding contact with the boy. Prosecutors successfully argued for her detention without bail, and her arraignment is now currently set for December 4th. Now, one can only imagine the family reunions ahead. This case serves as a stark reminder that some maternal instincts veer perilously off course. Can you imagine that young lady, the daughter, the forever shame throughout the rest of her days in that school district? Class reunions, she's going to be the girl where the mom got the schoolmate pregnant. Oh, that just happened to be her date at her junior high dance. Are you kidding me? The shame, the anger from that young lady that she's going to have for over the years. Oh my gosh, get over it. And you know, sometimes mothers and daughters can fight. At least this time they have something to fight about. And if you thought that was weird, wait until you hear this. Another pillar of East Texas society faces charges for his so innovative approach to public interaction with young kids. A local grand jury has seen fit to indict one Wesley Worrell, W-O-R-L, a 46-year-old from White House, Texas, on counts of soliciting indecency with a minor involving sexual contact, apparently stemming from his brilliant decision to parade around in nothing but a diaper and demand assistance from two unsuspecting young girls. So it seems this little summer escapade unfolded back on July 29th when an 11-year-old and her companion were innocently cycling near the Pollard Park and the Andy Woods Elementary School in Tyler, Texas. Out pops our hero from his truck, channeling his inner infant with cries of "Goo goo gaga, I need a diaper change." Naturally, the girls, being paragons of good sense, bolted in terror and sought refuge with a nearby family. A partial license plate was all it took to link the mastermind back to the scene. But wait, it gets better. This tale of sophistication here unfolds, where the authorities uncovered a storied legacy of similar exploits stretching back over a quarter century, starting back in 1999. Accusations include public exposure, diaper-clad outings in broad daylight, and even shadowing a former partner. For his efforts, he's earned a prestigious ban from all Tyler parks. The official report graciously notes his peculiar fascination with diapers and a troubling pattern of targeting children, especially ones between the age of 8 and 12 that are female, branding him with the unflattering label of a potential threat to the community. Well, Mr. Worrell found himself in custody on August 7th, enjoying the hospitality of the Smith County Jail just over a week after his latest performance. Now, one can only imagine the profound reflections he must be undertaking during his stay. Ladies and gentlemen, criminal defense for 30 years represented some of the worst, I'm telling you, okay? People that go for small children, it's not good, ladies and gentlemen. They need to stay away from your children. Certainly my children, they're all grown, but I'm going to have grandkids someday, I hope. And certainly wouldn't want this guy popping out of his truck saying, "Goo goo gaga, I need to have my diaper changed." That's just weird. That's creepy. This guy's got some impulse control issues and probably shouldn't be walking amongst a lot of us until, I don't know, maybe he's too old to want to wear a diaper. Or maybe he's too old enough that he has to wear a diaper all the time. Maybe that's it. All right, next we brought you this story. It's a horrible story, but Christopher Ryan Schultz, the Arizona man who had pled guilty to second-degree murder in the death of his 2-year-old daughter after leaving her in a hot car, was found dead in his Phoenix home on November 5th in an apparent suicide. Now, the incident occurred just hours before he was scheduled to surrender for a prison sentence of 20 to 30 years without parole, according to the court records. Now, Schultz's body was discovered around 5 a.m. at a residence near 7th and Northern Avenue in Phoenix, where he lived with his wife, Dr. Erica Schultz, an anesthesiologist, and their 2 surviving daughters. Phoenix police have classified the death as a suicide with no indication of foul play. Dr. Schultz was not charged in connection with the event that was reportedly supporting the family in the aftermath. The case stems from a tragic death of Schultz's daughter, Parker, back in July of 2024. According to investigative reports, Schultz left the toddler asleep in the family Acura SUV with the air conditioning running while he entered the home. However, the vehicle engine shut off automatically after approximately 30 minutes, causing the interior temperature to rise dangerously high amid the summer heats exceeding 109 degrees. Parker's body's temperature was recorded at 108.9 upon arrival by first responders after she was pronounced dead shortly after being transported to the hospital. Now, court records and witness statements revealed that Schultz spent the intervening time inside the home engaging in personal activities, including some, consuming some adult beverages, viewing some adult online content, and playing some video games. And the security footage contradicted his initial account, showing that Parker had been left unattended for about 3 hours until Dr. Schultz returned from work and discovered the child in the car. Interview with the couple's other children, then aged 5 and 9, indicated a pattern of similar incidents where Schultz routinely left the siblings in a vehicle unsupervised. Schultz initially pled not guilty, but rejected an earlier plea offer in that case that could have resulted in a minimum of 10 years of prison. And then in October of this year, he accepted a deal admitting guilt to second-degree murder and child abuse charges. Sentencing was set for November 21st, with Schultz required to report to authorities on November 5th. The district attorney expressed profound regret over the developments in a statement, and they said this case was deeply complex, and our thoughts are with those affected by the loss of this young child and now the additional tragedy. While justice was not fully realized in court, our office remains committed to honoring the victim's memory through the ongoing efforts. Further complicating the matter, Schultz's 17-year-old daughter from a prior relationship has filed a civil lawsuit against both her and the doctor, alleging emotional distress, assault, battery, fraud, and seeking compensation related to Parker's death. The teenager, now a ward of the state following her mother's passing back in February of 2024, intends to proceed with the action against Dr. Schultz despite her father's death. Lindsay Eisenberg, formerly the girl's guardian and authorized to represent her in the suit, confirmed that the young woman remains determined to pursue custody of her younger half-sister upon turning 18 this month. Investigations uncovered additional concerns about Schultz's behavior, including a history of excessive alcohol consumption and prior instances of endangering the children, as evidenced by text messages between the couple. And then in one exchange following Parker's death, Dr. Schultz lamented the repeated warnings she had issued against leaving the child in the car. And while on bail, Schultz was granted court approval for a family vacation to Maui earlier this year, drawing a little bit of public scrutiny. Now, the family has relocated from the original home where the incident took place to a $1 million property in the Phoenix area as well. And police has emphasized that the focus remains on supporting the surviving family members. Now, one thing you have to remember here is now that Mr. Schultz is now dead, guess what? Case gets dismissed. He passes without a felony conviction and a clean record. These types of cases are absolutely tragic all around. Obviously, a young child is deceased. Parker is deceased. Now dad is deceased. Complete family tragedy. Not to get too far sidetracked, but I had a case. Mother and father who had children, they get a divorce. Mother meets significantly younger man who just happens to be a registered sex offender. Family didn't like mom's new acquaintance. Young lady makes allegation that a new man in mom's life had inappropriately touched her. New man in mom's life gets arrested. on various charges. Ultimately, it comes out that dad finds out about these allegations. Needless to say, upset with mom for allowing new boyfriend, much younger, near his daughter, goes and shoots mother. So now dad is in custody pending murder of the mother. Ultimately, it comes out that young lady had fabricated the story. My client gets released, but tragedy all around. I don't know. It just seems tragedy all around. Just a weird show today. That's all I'm saying. And it even gets weirder. Remember the story that we brought you just the other day? The backyard horror where they found the lady chained in a plot. So in a plot that could only come from the annals of a truly enlightened human relationship, police in Austin, Texas have unveiled more details about the bizarre case we first reported earlier this week. Remember the heartwarming tale of camaraderie gone awry, where a woman was discovered half clothed and bound in a suburban yard like a forgotten garbage ornament? Well, buckle up, because the latest revelations suggest the motive behind the month-long ordeal was profound as it gets. Her so-called friends simply didn't vibe with her anymore. How utterly relatable, except, for the whole torture part. Anyway, police officials now confirm that the victim, whose identity remains protected for obvious reasons, has initially been only on friendly terms with one of the key suspects. But in a stunning display of social evolution, the group allegedly flipped the script, opting to express their waning affection through a regimen of starvation, restraints, and recreational target practice with air-powered projectiles. Because nothing says we're over this friendship quite like chaining someone to workout gear and treating them like a piñata. The saga unfolded back on October 30th when emergency responders rushed to a residence in southern Austin, following reports of desperate cries for assistance. There, they encountered the woman in a state of extreme distress, partially undressed and secured to a heavy-duty punching bag frame. Efforts to liberate her required specialized tools from a local fire department, as the bindings proved stubbornly resistant, much like the suspect's apparent grasp on basic decency. As rescuers labored, the 5 individuals inside the house, ranging in age from their early 20s to 51, allegedly attempted a not-so-subtle exit, only to be swiftly apprehended. Adding to the domestic charm, 2 young children were present and have since been entrusted to protective services, because exposing minors to such family fun is apparently part of the package. Now, the accused, identified as middle-aged woman, her adult offspring, and 3 others in their prime, face a laundry list of charges, including severe kidnapping and assault variants. And investigators pieced together the victim's account, which paints a picture of escalating hostility. After the group collectively soured on her presence, they reportedly confined her outdoors for extended periods of time, doling out minimal sustenance and meting out beatings for an escape bid. One particularly enlightened rational emerged for the skimpy rations, concerning over her figure having become a tad too robust. How thoughtful. Nothing motivates malnutrition as the ultimate diet, I guess. Further gems from the probe include allegations of nocturnal punishments involving pellet guns, especially after minor infractions like wardrobe malfunctions in chilly weather. The women endured a catalog of traumas: deep laceration, tissue damage, embedded projectiles, one even in her eye for that extra touch of precision, and the kind of scarring that screams prolonged neglect. One suspect reportedly confessed to preferring ranged weaponry to avoid physical contact, while another described post-work chases around the yard as a way to vent disdain. Even a preschooler in the household corroborated the routine, noting the shots were reserved for when the victim was deemed naughty. Charming parenting insights indeed. Well, with court dates looming later this month and into December, the quintet remains detained on substantial bonds, pondering their choices from behind bars. Now, as the inquiry presses on, one can't help but marvel at the modern fable of friendship fragility. Who knew that unfriending someone could evolve into such literal extremes? Anyway, stay tuned for more updates on this pinnacle of interpersonal innovations. Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, that is torture. Torture. House of horror. Backyard of horrors. Unbelievable. The cruelty that one person can do to another person. But when you get a collective, it's almost easier because they say, well, it's not just me. Everybody's doing it. I would expect some lengthy prison sentences in that case. However, it is in Austin, so we'll have to wait and see. Next, an Oregon man gets prison for stabbing his wife and killing her dog because apparently that domestic violence protection order, well, was only worth the paper it was written on. So an Oregon man has been sentenced to more than 2 decades in prison after stabbing his wife while released on bond for an earlier assault involving strangulation. Obviously, highlighting a bit of concerns over the effectiveness of protection orders in domestic violence cases. Let's meet the antagonist, Mark Fox. He received a sentence of 20 years and 1 month following his guilty plea to charges including attempted second-degree murder, first-degree aggravated assault, and aggravated animal abuse, according to the district attorney. Now, the sequence of events began back in October of 2023 when the victim expressed fears about her estranged husband's increasingly aggressive and intoxicated conduct in a message to a friend. The friend alerted police, leading deputies from the Marion County Sheriff's Office to the residence, where they encountered the woman in a state of visible distress and bearing multiple bruises across her body. Prosecutors reported that the victim described being restrained by Mr. Fox in a manner that impeded her breathing, i.e., that's choking. He was subsequently arrested on charges related to domestic violence, you think, including strangulation, assault, and unlawful interference with reporting a crime. Although the prosecution sought a $25,000 bond, an enlightened judge opted to release Mr. Fox with a no-contact order. The victim also secured a restraining order against Mr. Fox. However, on November 8th of 2023, Mr. Fox violated the protection order and assaulted his wife again. Responding deputies found her in the driveway with multiple stab wounds. She informed officers that Mr. Fox had forced entry into the home during her phone conversation, declaring his intent to avoid incarceration. The victim's mother, overhearing the altercation via the phone, contacted the police after hearing her daughter plead for the attack to cease, while Fox was audibly questioning her, asking, "Why did you do this to me?" Man, this guy's thinking is unbelievable. Anyway, Mr. Fox arrived equipped with duct tape, zip ties, and hunting knives, which he used to bind the victim. He threatened to sever her ear before a struggle ensued on the floor. And upon hearing approaching sirens, Mr. Fox fled the scene. Police located Fox with self-inflicted stab injuries inside the home. They discovered the victim's dog, which had sustained stab wounds and succumbed despite veterinary intervention. And needless to say, cases like this underscore the limitations of restraining orders, which, despite their intent, well, only provide sufficient protection against, people that are going to follow them. But if you have somebody that's determined to be a perpetrator, it's not worth the paper it is written on. Next on the docket, Donna Adelson files her notice of appeal. Well, we knew that was coming. But anyway, her legal representatives, Joshua Zellman and Jackie Fulford from Tallahassee, submitted the appeal notice on November 4th in the Leon Circuit Court. The filing states that Adelson is challenging the pretrial decisions, the evidentiary rulings during trial, the jury's decision, and her sentence, and directing the appeal to the First District Court of Appeals. Now, during her sentencing back in October, Ms. Adelson expressed criticism towards the judicial process and affirmed her plans to appeal. The judge, Judge Everett, informed her of the 30-day filing deadline and said, "Bring it on," and said, "Make sure you submit on time." The appeal notice will be forwarded to the First District Court of Appeals in Tallahassee. However, the initial appellate brief outlining grounds for overturning the conviction is not expected for several months or even years. And once the complete trial record is submitted, she'll have 90 days in which to prepare the documents, and it will be forced to highlight judicial errors and the proposed remedies, such as a retrial. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, anybody can appeal. It's like anybody can file a lawsuit. Doesn't mean you're going to win. Appeals are there to see if the court made an error, a legal error in admitting evidence usually, or denying evidence coming in. There was such a grave error that resulted in an unfair trial. Now remember, you're not entitled to a perfect trial, you're entitled to a fair trial. And just because you don't like the result doesn't mean the judge made any mistakes, but that's what attorneys do. Now, as you may recall, Miss Adelson, who's 75, was found guilty in September of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation in connection with her son-in-law, Mr. Markle's fatal shooting. The incident stemmed from a contentious divorce and custody dispute involving Markle and Adelson's daughter, Wendy Adelson, with whom he shared 2 children. Now, Adelson is the 5th individual and the 2nd family member convicted in the case. Her son, Charlie, received a life sentence in 2023 after convictions of the hired assailants and being intermediary. Now, Charlie Adelson submitted his appellate brief back in May, seeking reversal of his conviction and asking for a new trial, primarily on the basis that the trial should have been relocated due to extensive pretrial media coverage, a contention likely to be raised in his mother's appeal as well. The prosecution responded with a counterbrief shortly after Donna Adelson's conviction. Anyway, Miss Adelson is currently incarcerated in the Florida Women's Reception Center in Ocala, where they wait to find out where's the best place to send her, to meet all those needs of rehabilitation. But since she's 75, she's got a life sentence. She's probably going to die in custody. It doesn't really matter. Normally they try to send you like, hey, this person's going to get out someday. We should probably get them some life skills, maybe a job training program or something along those lines. Those are evaluated at the diagnostic centers. Next, a woman finds out what happens when you play doctor and things go poorly. That's right. The infamous butt lady has finally faced the music for her brilliant side hustle. Libby Adame, ever the picture of restraint, kept her lips sealed in court while being handed down a sentence for offing an actress with her unlicensed silicone wizardry. The self-proclaimed expert was nailed for second-degree murder and playing doctor without the pesky credentials in the untimely demise of Cindiana Santagello back in March of 2025. You might remember Cindiana from her stellar turns on Married with Children and CSI Miami. Clearly, she deserves better than this amateur hour. Anyway, the Honorable Judge Sam Ota doled out the mandatory 15 years to life for the murder, while graciously pausing the extra time for her fake medical practice once she's done with the main event. Prosecutors, bless their hearts, begged for the harshest penalty, painting Adame's antics as either slyly self-serving or downright monstrous. Who could have guessed? It turns out that Cindiana shelled out for some backside enhancements only for Adame's magical injections to take a scenic route through her veins straight to her lungs, which was quite fatal. What an innovative approach to beauty. Anyway, Frank Santagello, the grieving widower, shared how his world and his sons got flipped on its head thanks to this paragon of disregard of rules and basic human decency. It's just mind-boggling that anyone would opt for such genius, he essentially lamented. Well, this wasn't Adame's first rodeo in the silicone slaughterhouse. She'd already scored a prior conviction for involuntary manslaughter and unlicensed meddling, earning her a slap on the wrist, time served, plus probation. Naturally, she was still under the watchful eye when she decided to strike again. Dante Santagello, the victim's son, wisely advised the judge that letting someone with zero respect for life lose again would not be a stellar idea. The judge penciled in May 5th for a chat about restitution because why not drag this out just a tad more, right? And finally, a little news we just couldn't get to. First, a 49-year-old man in Albuquerque, New Mexico was arrested and charged with first-degree murder after police discovered his mother's dismembered body in a kitchen freezer. The suspect, Leroy Vallejos, confessed to choking his mother to death, dismembering her, and hiding her remains for several weeks, citing some delusional beliefs about her conspiring against him. Next, a New York man allegedly murdered his estranged wife with chemicals after she tried to divorce him. Asif Queresi, Qureshi, a 53-year-old father of three, pled not guilty to second-degree murder, charges levied against him in court. His late wife, Elena Asif, was found dead at her home in Long Island. We'll just leave it at there. And a jury on Monday found 40-year-old Lyndon Wiggins guilty of aiding and abetting first-degree murder, aiding or abetting first-degree attempted murder, aiding or abetting kidnapping to commit great bodily harm, and aiding or abetting first-degree murder while committing a crime while kidnapping. Wiggins and three others tricked 28-year-old real estate agent Monique Bao on New Year's Eve in 2019 into hosting a house showing before ultimately kidnapping her and murdering her. And finally, a celebrity chef from Arizona has been convicted of killing his wife and children on Christmas Day back in 2017, just shortly after sharing a video online of his son singing carols. Anthony Ross was found guilty by a Maricopa County jury on 3 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the deaths of his estranged wife, Iris, and their 2 kids aged 11 and 10 months. Next, this day in legal history. On November 6, 1917, the state of New York adopted a constitutional amendment granting equal voting rights for women. On this date in 1956, the United States Supreme Court in Roth versus the United States upholds federal obscenity laws establishing the, quote, utterly without redeeming social value, end quote, test for First Amendment restrictions on free speech and media content. You know, they establish those guidelines like that, like pornography, for example. It's tough to define, but you know it when you see it. So, you know, utterly without redeeming social value, and it's hard to define, but you know it when you see it. That's what guides lawyers, and one can argue for either way. Wouldn't it be nice if they had very specific laws? This is what you can do, this is what you can't. Next, our legal quote comes yesterday at the Supreme Court. Justice Alito: I found it interesting to hear you make the non-delegation argument, Mr. Cato. I wonder if you ever thought your legacy as a constitutional advocate would be the man who revived the non-delegation argument. A little bit of laughter apparently in the courtroom, where Mr. Cato said, heck, yes, Justice Alito. Now, that exchange was between Justice Alito and Mr. Cato, reflecting a lighthearted acknowledgement of the doctrine's rarity and ideological context. Justice Alito noted the novelty of Cato, a prominent advocate often associated with progressive positions, advancing an argument typically favored by conservatives seeking to limit administrative authority. Cato's affirmative response underscored his commitment to the constitutional principle in this particular instance. The justices questioned during the argument revealed skepticism towards the tariff argument yesterday, but also explored distinctions between revenue-raising measures and other regulatory actions without a clear indication of the ultimate ruling. Little Supreme Court news there for you as well. And next, our dumb criminal of the day. What a shining example of professionalism. Take a look at footage that captures an inebriated educator tumbling from his vehicle before wobbling through an elementary school like it's happy hour. In a move that's sure to win awards for responsible adulting, 30-year-old Christopher Rios, already juggling a ban on alcohol from his 3rd DUI bail, allegedly piloted his car under the influence straight to Bay Lane Elementary in Muskego, Wisconsin last Thursday. Now, the surveillance clips brilliantly showcase his graceful exit from the car at about 8:20 a.m., where he promptly drops to his knees in a failed attempt at basic mobility. Once he miraculously navigates indoors, he's spotted weaving down the halls like a pro, barely managing a straight path while mingling with impressionable young students. Blood tests later revealed his alcohol level was over 4 times the legal limit for driving, hours into his teaching stint, no less. Body cam video from the police, courtesy of the local news, depicts this model citizen getting cuffed in the school lot around noon after administrators finally dialed for help. What did I do? He inquires with all the innocence of a fox in a hen house. You showed up to work drunk. The officer refreshingly replies. With slurred words, crimson eyes, and an unmistakable aroma of a distillery, Rios blew a preliminary .360 on the breathalyzer because why settle for just over the limit when you can go for records? Anyway, this gem was already wanted for his prior DUI antics and forbidden from imbibing under terms of his bail. Now he's facing charges for a fourth offense, throw in some violation of bail bond conditions, and that pesky warrant, all while cooling his jails in the Muskego County Jail. Of course, the school principal had to issue the obligatory press release saying that he assures everyone that the kids were perfectly safe and that Rios came via staffing agency called Kelly Education because nothing says top-notch vetting like outsourcing teaching hires. In a statement dripping with resolve, Robin Short, the principal, declared they've addressed this fiasco head-on, demanding Kelly Education explain their flawless screening methods to prevent future episodes of such exemplary behavior. When the teachers are saying it's never our fault, I wonder why the youth of America thinks the same way as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.